Oh boy, it's the Steam Summer Sale. Time to dump a small fortune on games which I won't even play all that much of. Well, let's see, what do they have on the chopping block today? Holy crap, is that real? $4. A AAA game and one of the best of 3 years ago for that much. Is this what theft feels like? Well, okay, I might as well nab a couple other games on the way out, but $4? Don't mind if I do, I guess. So, now that I have a ton more games to play, let's talk about that one in particular, Middle-earth: Shadow of Mordor. I'll be honest, I've been wanting to play this for a while, but between all of the games I've wanted to look at, some of the ones I've been playing on my spare time among others, it's hard to really find time to get through my back catalog of Steam games. It's that fact that has kept me somewhat restrained during Steam sales, and also because I'm still a poor college student who still has a semester left to get through. So now that I've gotten a chance to play it, is it as good as everyone has been claiming? Honestly, up to this point, yeah, it is. I don't know if the core gameplay was quite as good as I was expecting, but given everyone has hyped the game up to legendary status, I'm really happy with what I've got thus far. For those of you unfamiliar with the game, it is an open world game with Arkham-style combat set in Middle-earth, specifically the orc-infested land of Mordor. The short version of the plot is that you were supposedly killed by someone, find yourself somehow still alive and bound to this elven wraith, and are now going on about exacting revenge on the orcs that killed your family. I'm intentionally oversimplifying things for the sake of keeping the real story under wraps, as it seems there are a number of different plot threads going on. To start, there's figuring out what exactly is happening to you and why your wraith friend is around in the first place. With what I know, I'm certainly looking forward to how it'll play itself out, especially since it seems to tie into Smeagol's story a little bit. To my knowledge, the game is non-canon, but it's still an interesting idea given my understanding of Middle-earth. Another subplot is a matter of the people whom you find yourself encountering within Mordor. Most of them are slaves, but there are a handful of others who are trying to free said slaves, including some of your old ranger companions. Finally, you've got the actual manipulation of the orcish hierarchy, which I haven't messed with too much thus far, mostly because the warlords are extremely hard to take down, but thus far it's been an interesting challenge. The combat itself hasn't done anything super interesting yet, but it's surprisingly satisfying. I haven't played too many games that use the Arkham combat system yet, so it's not something that I'm tired of, and when it comes to knocking down a ton of orcs, it doesn't get old. However, I know a friend of mine who bought it around the same time as me hasn't been enjoying it as much, and I don't know his exact reason, but I can kind of see why depending on how you approach the fights. If you do look purely at the Arkham style combat, it can easily just turn into a game of hitting right click and spacebar to cancel enemy attacks, especially when you get a large swarm of them. What really makes it work for me are the powers you get as you continue playing, as well as the auxiliary aspect that isn't purely focused around Arkham-style combat. In this case, approaching a stronghold or anywhere that I want to get to isn't just a matter of running in guns blazing, but more a matter of thinning their numbers before the serious fighting starts up. Said aspect ranges from stealth kills to using a bow that seems to slow down time while it's active, to what might be my favorite thing, blowing stuff up. I'm pretty sure that shouldn't also apply to some of the fireplaces, but who am I to complain when a dead orc is a dead orc? So within the combat, while it's fairly standard given my understanding of Arkham games, everything built up around it makes it really enjoyable, especially when it pertains to figuring out the strengths and weaknesses of a given orc. The war chief that was giving me trouble while I was recording this ended up being afraid of whatever inhabits those beehives, meaning after I recorded this, I was able to drop one on him, get him running away from everything, including his own men, and then chase after him to finish him off away from his entourage. Another great part of the game is how emergent some of the gameplay feels. There are small little things scattered throughout, such as collectibles that offer some degree of lore, and orcish patrols that can join whomever you're fighting to cause you even more misery. As I was fighting one captain, I'd sometimes find another one wander in wanting a piece of the action, which meant it then became a matter of figuring out how to de-escalate things. At first I hated this, because it then meant there wasn't a set difficulty on a fight, but when I thought about it, it actually worked to the game's advantage. The point of the game is to thin the horde before engaging, so that when something happens, you can properly manage it. In the cases where things get out of control, however, the fact that that can happen adds a frantic aspect of trying to be brutally efficient with everything you've learned up to that point. Even better, in the cases that I died, the Nemesis system ended up kicking into high gear, where whoever beat me would grow more powerful and even more annoying to deal with. Which meant despite all of the trouble I was having, it didn't matter at the time because now this wasn't a matter of causing grief to Sauron's army, this was personal, and he's gonna die by whatever I can conjure to do so, and that's gonna be that. I've already touched on this by mentioning emergent gameplay, which might be a misnomer given the open world, but it's an open world that feels like there's a lot going on within it. I don't necessarily know how true that is, but it seems like every time I'm approaching something, there are always orcs just going on about their nefarious business, with plenty to do that changes fairly regularly with the day-night cycle. The side quests range from messing with the Orcish hierarchy, to completing certain objectives, to improving your weapons through certain tests, to freeing slaves, and there's just enough variety to keep me interested without it being overly repetitive. There's always something going on, and every time I finish with one activity, I find myself drawn into that just one more level trance that I don't find often, but when I do, often means I need an exorcism to keep me from playing a game. Hence why I'm looking at this game instead of finishing a certain RPG that's on the chopping block for my review series. So all in all, I'm really enjoying it, though it certainly hasn't been perfect. I had to choose early on between being able to aim the bow and actually make combos happen during combat, which given the fact that I like my keyboard and mouse, meant I chose the former. Now that I've spent more time with it, the controls aren't too bad, but even for the small tutorial sequence they give you, it somewhat feels like they don't give you quite enough time to process everything. Ironically, by working the tutorial into the story, I think it worked to the game's disadvantage, as it meant I was having to switch focus between gameplay and story more rapidly than I was comfortable with, and that meant I ended up forgetting certain things as I learned them. It also doesn't help that for keyboard and mouse, they seem oddly obsessed with using the shift and alt keys for their actions. I might try and rebind them to something else, but given that most of the other keys are being used for something important, such as certain attacks or movement, I'm not sure where I could put them that would be convenient. It also certainly doesn't help that the sprint button is also used for scaling walls and cliffs, meaning that I would find myself grabbing onto something that I didn't necessarily want to, all while trying to escape from a pack of orcs that I was stupid enough to engage with before I was ready. Outside of that, the only other thing to note is that it seems like it's a little too easy to sneak around the place. Granted, I'm terrible at stealth, so I don't mind that so much, but it feels like there are more cases where an orc should be seeing me and giving me hell, or times when I can get away with more than my fair share of cheap stealth kills. Given the fact that it means the combat is easier, it's mostly a nitpick, but still something worth mentioning if you really like the stealth aspect of video games. And no, I don't care if I'm a ranger, these are creatures that were designed to kill people, and you'd think they would be better at spotting the ranger making mincemeat of them. Assuming that I figure out how exactly to use the special moves, because telling me things like, "This only works if you built up a good enough combo," was apparently something the game glossed over. Or maybe I glossed over because the tutorial wasn't well thought out. Either way, I'm glad to be finally diving into this, and I'm looking forward to seeing how Shadow of War turns out later this year. I somewhat suspect that the low price was to act as a promotion for the sequel, so that more people will be interested in it, and if they can reach the same quality and polish as they have here, I'll certainly keep an eye on it. If you're interested in this game, the Steam Summer Sale for 2017 is still going on at the time this video will be uploaded, so if you've been on the fence for a while now, what do you have to lose except $4 in a few hours? That's all I have for this video. Thank you all for watching. Please like and share this if you find it deserving, and subscribe to this channel for more video game discussion as well as other content posted on a pseudo-regular basis. Next week I hope to have that review I mentioned finished up, though if that doesn't happen I'll probably do an update video regarding something that's been on my mind. It's nothing too important yet, or at least not something I'll be acting on immediately, but may be relevant for what will be getting uploaded a couple months down the road. Either way, I'm going to see which one ends up being done first, and we'll see you all later.